Hi, welcome to the Eternal Spirit Show. I'm Paul Salmon, I'm a psychic medium, and my guest for today is Leo Bonomo, another psychic medium. Hi Leo.
Hi.
Now, is it Bonomo, Bonomo? How do you say your name?
It gets pronounced a lot of ways. It actually comes from northern Italy, and so the actual pronunciation's Bonomo, but Bonomo's fine.
I didn't know if it's a stage name, you know.
No.
It sounds good. It's really, you know, I can remember it though.
Yeah, in Italian it means the good man.
Right, I'm sure you are.
I'll try to be.
Let's find out, shall we?
Let's find out.
Were you one of those psychic children? Did you grow up knowing you had a psychic gift?
Yeah, my first experience was when I was 2, and I was walking hand in hand with my parents, and this was in Manor Park, East London, and beside a cemetery, and it was about 7 o'clock at night, not too dark, and as we were walking along, I suddenly realised there was a gentleman behind us. So I've kind of looked over my shoulder, and I saw what looked to be a Victorian dressed gentleman kind of rise out of the pavement and stand up.
Yeah.
So my dad said, you know, what are you looking at? And I said, oh, there's a funny man behind us. And of course we all looked back, couldn't see anything. And this happened a couple of times. But to me, it was just funny from the perspective of the way that he was dressed. I just took it as normal. I didn't question it at all, because I thought everybody sees and hears these things. And it was not until much later, when I was 9 or 10, but thinking of it now and understanding it now, approaching puberty, spirit needed some way of closing me down. So it wasn't until then that I questioned it. But a wonderful childhood, all kinds of experiences.
So were your parents psychic? Did they have the gift?
My dad was a twin. He had twin experiences, but strangely enough didn't believe in any of this.
Yeah.
So, which is odd.
So growing up at school, did you realise you were different at the time?
I've always felt different since the day I was born. Not understanding quite why. The spirit and that I thought was quite normal, but there was just something inside me. I knew that I had come from somewhere, and that was a little difficult in my understanding, but always felt different. You know, still feel different now.
Now you mentioned Manor Park, which I know. And I believe, are you from the East End?
I was born in Forest Gate.
Yeah.
And lived in Forest Gate till I was, I think, 22 when I bought my first house.
Right.
But I've always lived in the area and still live, you know, not far.
Because I believe we've got a place like East Ham, connections to East Ham, haven't we?
Yes, I lived in East Ham. That was our first house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know East Ham.
Yeah, it's where the S1 used to go.
Yeah.
The S1 probably still does.
So you went to school, grown up as we do. What happened after school? Did you go to learn a trade or profession?
Yeah, my first real trade, I went into jewellery. There were 2 cousins, one worked on the bench and one worked in the office, and my cousin said, why don't you come and work with us, they're looking for people. And on and off I did that for about 18 years as a goldsmith, hand making jewellery.
So how did you learn your route into mediumship? Did you go through the spiritualist churches?
My first real connection was with the SAGB,
which is
Spiritualist Association of Great Britain, and I'd had what you might call a reawakening by that time, and this was around the 1980s. And there was a medium that I'd gone to see some demonstrations there. And there was a medium you probably heard of, John Brown. And I wanted to develop at that time, because I feel that whilst people may naturally have gifts, unless you're one of the very lucky 1%, we all need training. And so I made some inquiries there, and saw a marvellous demonstration with John Brown, and thought that's the guy to teach me. So I started there.
But before that, though, you're working away at your jewellery. What was the initial thought that made you think, oh, let's go along to the SAGB? Or
I was still having experiences, spiritual experiences, and beginning to realise that I needed to take it a step further. It shouldn't be something for me that was private and for me. It's something that I needed to develop, and so decided that that's what I needed to do. And the SAGB really was much more prominent at that time than local churches, and so that's where I went. So the spirit, I realise now, were just pushing me to do something.
So how long was you in that circle of teaching?
I was at the SAGB for approximately 8 years, and really enjoyed it.
So, and now you're full-time, I believe, working medium.
Yeah.
How do you describe yourself? Psychic medium or spiritualist medium?
I call myself a clairvoyant medium and psychic. For some reason, the public seems to attach a lot of importance to the word psychic. So if you kind of don't put that somewhere, they miss a lot of it. So that's what I would describe myself as.
Right, so how do you work? Do you hear, do you see voices?
I'm blessed in that I have all the 5 senses, all the 5 clairs, so I smell, taste, hear, see, clairsentient as well, so they're all the feelings with it. And spirit, they make me work hard, which I'm grateful for. Sometimes a message will be purely clairvoyant, sometimes clairaudient, clairsentient, but an awful lot of the time the whole thing's mixed. So I'll get some mind pictures sometimes, then I might actually see someone, hear something, then get tastes and smells which are very evocative, and they bring back memories for me, but also for the recipient.
So what made you become full-time working as a medium? What was that initial thought or spark that set you off?
As I may have said, I don't believe in coincidences, and throughout my life I've done a lot of different jobs, and I started to lose every job that I was getting, and then I started to do this on a part-time basis, and it got to a stage, I've got a condition called fibromyalgia, and basically it means you generally can't do normal work and normal work hours, so even that came into it, and I started losing work, and the only thing to rely on was this. So spirit, and obviously spirit guided me.
So how long have you been do we call it a professional, or your career? How long have you been professional medium?
About 9 years now.
Have you? I bet you've never looked back, have you?
No. There's not a lot of money in it, contrary to what some people think. But I'm very blessed to do something that I love for a living.
But I mean, you travelled all over the world. You talked about your trip to New Zealand. How did you get to work all over the place?
New Zealand was quite strange because I also read on psychic lines, and I have my own psychic line which I'm trying to get going. And I was reading for a lady that I didn't realise at the time, because Spirit held it back, that she was an agent. Oh, right. And I don't know if you believe in the secret manifestation.
Tell me about it.
Basically, the universe wants to give you whatever would make you happy, and it's a form of asking and understanding that somehow it will find its way to you. So I use it quite a lot, and I just said to the universe, Spirit, I haven't got any money, but I want to go to New Zealand. And I started reading for this lady, and within about 6 months she phoned me up on a reading. She said, would you like to do a tour of New Zealand? It's all expenses paid. So the manifestation appeared, and that's exactly what happened.
I'll tell you what I believe in this secret, but it takes a long time to arrive sometimes.
It can do, yeah, it can do. I think a lot of it is an approach. I've got a friend and she just amazes me, and things more often than not turn up free, as that did. But she's got such a knack now, some things turn up within days.
Really, yeah. I mean, I have had it happen, but other things I haven't. But it seems when it does happen, or what you want manifests, it's at the time that you need it, not when you want it. It's like the universal, God, the Great Spirit, has its own timing to know when it's needed, doesn't it?
Yeah, I've always found it arrives at the perfect time, which, as you say, may not be our time.
No.
You know.
But looking back on me, I realised my time wasn't then. So,
yes.
And it's certain things are now and for the future.
Yeah, I mean, hindsight in the sense a wonderful thing, because you look back and then you can see the pattern.
Yeah.
You know.
So are you planning other countries to go to yet?
I'm going to go back to New Zealand towards the end of this year. It's not really to work, but I've got some contacts there, and eventually I'd like to live there. So that's mainly what the what that's about. I'm also going to go to Australia. One of the companies I work with has its headquarters in Perth. So I'm going to go along and see them, because I've worked for them I think 3 or 4 years now, maybe longer. It'd just be nice to see them face to face.
So you did work as a medium in churches, did you? Spiritualist churches, doing platform work?
Yeah, at one time, this would have been from around the mid-80s for about 5 years, something like that. Quite a wide area, from Maidstone to Huntingdon, from parts of Essex to Wales I went in one night. And to be honest, it was getting too much at that time, because I was working full time. So this was every weekend. I was literally having 2 weeks holiday and a few days off at Christmas. And it was getting too much. And I think Spirit really just wanted me to rest at that time.
Yeah. Excellent. So, but then you made the leap from church to private readings and village halls, community centres? Yeah,
I do demonstrations in churches now. I'm starting to do that again, so that's a wonderful thing. But as I say, how I initially started on the lines, I realised that I needed to earn some money.
We talked about telephone lines.
Telephone lines, and I realised I needed to pay the bills with something, hopefully. So that's how I started.
But I believe, like you said, you've got your own telephone company now, or Psychic Line.
It's with the company that I'm working with as well, based in Perth, and they have a setup where they can part fund or help you fund your own lines. So it doesn't actually cost me too much. But it's a nice start. But again, it's getting the funds together to advertise it.
Sure. Is, chicken and the egg sort of thing, isn't it?
It is very much.
But I've looked up your information on your computer, and your website's very extensive, isn't it? There's a lot of stuff on it.
There is a lot. Yeah.
Let's begin with the teaching, because I believe you teach mediumship or psychic ability now. Yeah. How's that going?
That's going very well. I've been at my local church for, I think it's about 4 years, and I've always been interested in developing people, and I teach in a very unique way. Most of what I do is channeled in one form or another.
Now you'll have to mention to the people at home what channeling is.
Okay, channeling, I would describe it as light trance, where you're given the words or the subject matter, and channeling can be various different forms. It can be written, which is something I do as well. It could be psychic art, or just what I would call inspirational speaking.
So being a channel, you're talking about, it's like moving your consciousness over to let some other side, to let some other conscience come in, be it art, talking through you, or writing. Yeah. So it's a bit trusting, isn't it? You have to trust to give yourself over. Yes,
it takes a while before you get to the level where you understand that it's okay and it's safe. So yes, it is. And the way I teach, we all work with the light. But for the last 3 years, I think, my guides have talked to me about using the colours of the chakras. And obviously they all have their own colour. Every colour's got a corresponding musical note. You know, all these things are interconnected. And basically what we do when we open for circle is my guides will use the colours of the chakras.
Now when we say, interrupting you, Leah, when we say chakras, for those who don't know, we're talking about energy points, which by somehow consciously opening them up allows us to work to a higher sphere. Consciousness.
They're the main 7 spiritual points on the body. So there's one at the base of the spine, the spleen, the stomach, the heart, throat, forehead, and the crown. There are lots of others, and they break down. There's some at every joint, and then they get smaller and smaller to what some people might recognise in acupuncture as meridians. So they're all interconnected again. And what mediums do when they begin to develop is they learn how to manipulate those, to control them, to open, to close them. So when we begin to work, we manipulate them, open them up, and the corresponding colours spirit use. In basic science, if you get red, blue and green light and mix it, you get a white. And basically what spirit do with me is they use those colours to make their own form of white. And the next step from that is, because they mix that white light, is for materialisations in daylight, transfiguration in daylight. That's where that is heading. And for the viewers, transfiguration is where spirit will use some energy called ectoplasm from your own body, and they literally put a thin mask over your face, and they can change your face so you can see other people.
For those who don't know about this, it's a bit intimidating.
Yes, it can be strange when you see it, you know, but it's something that you get used to. And of course, if that interest's there, to see somebody else's face on yours is something.
Well, you say it's something you get used to. I was 35 when I first got into spiritualism. You wouldn't catch me reading about ghosts or films or anything. But now I'm used, you know, like you say, it's what you get used to. But I'm going to ask you something, a personal question from me to you now, which I'd like to know. We're talking about chakras. Can we work with just one day, or meditate upon one of these chakras and see how it works?
To be honest, I've never tried that. I can't see why not. You can certainly work, I think, through inspirational speaking with the crown and the throat, and quite probably the heart. It's not something I've tried, actually.
Nor have I.
No.
I thought, while I've got you here, I'll ask you, because I might give that a go one day.
Yeah, I think we'll do that in circle one night. I'm sure spirit
see
will
what happens.
remind me. Yeah.
And if we go blank using that chakra there, we might think, oh, won't do that again.
Exactly. Yeah, it's as you. It's something that's never struck me before.
No. It struck me. I've just never done it. Excellent. So, what did your family think about you being you have children, don't you?
I have children.
What do they think of Dad being a medium?
The youngest, I think, has got some inclination towards it, but she's 16, so for me personally, it's not a time I would, you know, awful lot going on as well as exams and that. When my eldest was born, and she's 26, she was born in 1986, and in 1984 a beautiful aunt of mine passed away, and we were in our own house, and I could see my daughter, she must have been about 2 or 3, never seen my aunt obviously, was kind of looking out through a window, and I could sense that somebody was there, so I said, "Who's there?" And she went, "Auntie Katie," and she'd never seen her. I don't think we mentioned her because she had passed, you know. So she was quite sensitive. They kind of leave me to it. She doesn't have much interest. My wife, quite strangely, doesn't really like when I do.
Really?
Yeah, but it's time for that to happen.
Yeah. You've written a book as well, Leo. Now.
Yes, it was called. Yeah.
It's called Summerland.
Summerland.
By Leo Bonomo. Bonomo. Just tell me about it. Has it got poetry? Because I know you write poetry, don't you?
I write poetry, yeah. I've written a book called Book of Thoughts, which is about 54 poems. I began channeling this book just about 1987, and it was one of those things where, you know, in Ghost, where he keeps singing Henry VIII I am, and I kept getting these words, and I got to the stage where I would realise if I don't get up and start writing, I'm not going to get any sleep. So I began to write. And some nights there would be a couple of paragraphs, other nights there'd be pages of A4, and I'd be completely out of it and then come round and read back what I'd written. So the whole process of the book took around 3 years, but there's actually about 3 months work in it. And I tried to release it in 1987, and publishers are quite strange people because they want to pigeonhole everything, and if it doesn't quite fit, they don't want to know. And I asked Spirit, and they said, you know, just shelve it, it's not going to happen. Well, with the agent, the other thing I asked, as well as going to New Zealand for free, was to have the book published, and she managed to get it published. We've parted ways now, and due to some technical differences, I've stopped publication of the book, but it is going to come out sometime this year, again with a different cover, obviously. But the book itself, written in 1987, is very different because I feel it's the first book that Spirit have written as a novel.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. And basically it's about a little boy called Alex, just prior to passing, his passing experience, what he finds in spirit, so there's lots of descriptions of spirit world, and his experiences as he begins to mature, and it involves a lot of different things, you know. There are other experiences there of people passing, spirit influence in a quite negative way with Ouija board. It encompasses healing, cot death, and in the end, perhaps I shouldn't give the end of the book away.
No, don't give the end away.
There's a part where Alex reincarnates again for a short time, but it's written as a novel, and I know at some point it will be made a film.
Well, let's let the viewers know how we can get hold of this. I'm sure it's at all good bookshops, but through your website as well?
It's going to be republished shortly, so
right.
It's not actually available right now, but it will be on my website. I'm hoping in the next few months to get the deal together to have it published.
Right, so if any viewers want to get in touch with you anyway,
yeah.
What's your website address?
Website address is www.leo-bonomo.com.
Or you can contact us here at Felixstowe TV. Now, you mentioned guides. Are you allowed to tell us who your guides are? Or can you tell us what they do for you?
Yeah, I'll describe some guides. In common with most mediums, there are several guides that I work with. My main guide is what you might call an overseer. So he controls a lot of things, and a lot of the time he's actually in the background with me. I have special guides for teaching. I sometimes go into trance, and I'm a strong believer on inspirational addresses. So there are guides there that would inspire me in addresses. Some come through with philosophy, some come through with anecdotal evidence of their lives and what's relevant to that particular audience at the time. Some come through in the writing. In the original writings of Summerland, although I knew the writing's completely different in different places, somebody that read the book said, I can see when different people have come in, which I can't, to be honest with you. So there are several guides that were helping with the book. Some come through with poetry. There's a whole band there.
And that takes me on to a part of your website where you have like people ask you questions, don't you? And it's like a head full of knowledge you must have, or your guides have.
Yeah, I don't know a lot myself.
But it's like questions and answers page on the website, and it's extensive where people have written in to you and you've given answers or problems.
Again, to me it happens in a natural way, because they write in and they ask something, and it's like I begin to answer it in what I feel might be my view, and then spirit just take over, so the answers flow naturally. But yeah, and again, I think that's very important. People sometimes have the wrong view of spiritualism and what we do, and I have several pet hates, and one of them is the Ouija board, because especially in America, it's just sold as a game, and it isn't a game. You know.
So Leo, before we go, what is it that Leo wants to do on this earth plane in this incarnation?
To teach, to bring more light to people, so that people can love each other basically, and understand really what spirit is, because I think once they understand that, it can bring such an effect. If people realise that yes, we have free will, we can do whatever we want here, but you know, there are drawbacks. We have to pay back when we do something wrong, and it won't change the whole world, because people have experiences they need to have, but I think it'll make the world a better place. So just to bring more light and make people more aware.
One more thing. Where do you see yourself in like 2 or 3 years' time?
In a sense, if I could still be sitting in the back room doing my work, that's what I'd like. But I know spirit are pushing for me, so it will entail becoming more of a public figure. This is already starting to happen. I know a film's going to be made of the book at some point. That may be 3 or 4 years away. But if I can achieve that, not for myself, but to be able to enlighten other people, that's where I'm heading. You know.
Excellent. Well, I hope I've been a bit of a help, get you out there on the old filming and spread your name, your work, more importantly, your work.
The work, it's not for me. You know, we have to keep ego in check, definitely.
Leo, thanks for being a wonderful guest.
Bless you. Thank you so much.
Let's keep in touch.
We will.
And we'll see you again next time. Goodbye and God bless.
Thank you.